This is Behind the Mic with Micah Popp. I'm filling in for Micah Popp today. My name is Jaden Feather. And, just kidding! It's me the whole time. It was me, Micah. I tricked you. Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. This is episode 5. We're getting to the close of my vacation, but I'm going to keep going. Even when I get back to work, I'm just going to keep doing this because, I'm having a lot of fun with this. And I'm getting a lot of practice in, and I think that's what's most important. So, hey, I got a really great one for you today. We're going to be talking about character voices today. But before we get to that, I wanted to give you the verse of the day. Let me just pull it up on my phone real fast. This comes from 2 Corinthians 12:9. Now, a little context. This is Paul writing to the church of Corinth, and he's talking a lot about different things. But in this specific passage, we're talking about grace. And I really wanted to touch on God's grace today before I get into the characters. So this is 2 Corinthians 12:9 in the NKJV. And this is Paul talking to God about something that he was struggling with. And so God replied to him and said, "And he said to me, 'My grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness.'" And then Paul says, "Therefore, most gladly I will rather boast in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me." So, that really goes to say that, he was really, he was talking to God about some thorns in the side is what he calls them, that he's really been struggling with. And we don't really know what those thorns were. It could have been a physical ailment. It could have been a mental sickness. It could have been anything that was just hurting Paul. And it could have been past regrets or something. It could have been anything. And he was saying, God told him that my grace is sufficient for you in your weakness. And it's so funny because, Paul, of all the people, if you don't know, he actually was Saul before his name was changed to Paul. And Saul was probably the biggest enemy of Christ at the very beginning of the early Acts church. He was going out and he was killing Christians, and he was just wiping everybody. He was trying to stop this whole Jesus movement. He was just killing everybody he could, and he did it all in the name of God. And it was a lot of there's a lot of evil that he was perpetrating under the name of good. And so, but what had happened, as the story goes, is that he was riding on his way from the synagogue into more land to go hunt more Christians, and in a burst of light, Jesus himself came to him and said, "Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me?" And Saul was like, "Who are you? Who are you, Lord?" And that's when Jesus kind of told him, "Hey, I am the one that you've been persecuting. I am Jesus, and I am the Lord." And you can read the story for yourself. It's in Acts, I think Acts 9. And it's a beautiful story. And Saul, again, his name turns into Paul, and he goes on to write 2/3 of the New Testament that we read. He's the one who writes the majority of letters. He wrote Corinthians. And it's so cool to see that, the biggest offender, the biggest enemy of God was Saul at that time. And then God used him as his biggest asset. So, it's just such a great testament to God's grace that, doesn't matter how far gone you are, doesn't matter where you are in your life, that God's grace is sufficient in your weakness. So, that's the message for today. I am thankful for God's grace in my life because, goodness gracious, I need it. I'm not a perfect person, as many people know, I'm sure. But anyways, I digress from that. Character voices of what we're going to talk today. Obviously, I open up this show with my Jaden Feather voice, and that is one of my most iconic voices, I think. At least personally. But, one thing I've realized with this reel is that, I was doing my research, and that I spent my time making a lot of commercial reels and a lot of character reels, and I was going to put them all together into one big one. And I've been doing some research, and I found that probably the best scenario to go with is to go with character reels, but do as many different character voices as I can to showcase my talents. And that's what I'm going to be working on today. Monday, we're back in the workshop. So we're going to be doing that today. But I wanted to show you guys some of my fun voices that I do. So I have Jaden Feather, who that origin came off of the show Ruby, one of my favorite shows. It's RWBY, and that was Jean Arc originally when I used to cosplay him. And but obviously for copyright reasons, I changed it from Jean to Jaden. Jaden Feather. So he is a character. He's probably the lightest and fragilest character I have in my roster. And he is a camp counselor for 10 years. And he is really kind of skittish and kind of afraid of everything. But, he's spunky and he loves fun. So that's that. I almost said John. That's Jaden. And then I got Marion Maloney. Marion is the stereotypic sleazeball down in Rapture. I've been talking about Marion a lot through this whole thing, so you guys are kind of familiar with him. But this is what he sounds like. He's kind of like not a Jersey guy, kind of, so he's another one of my roster. I've been practicing him a lot, and I'd like to see where he goes. But one character that I've had for a long time, and I've never named him until today, is quote-unquote my heavy weapons guy voice from Team Fortress 2. I finally put a name to him because I don't want to do impersonations of other characters. I want to have my own characters. And so I tweaked it a little bit, and I have named him, I was going to do Nikochev Sibornik. And he's I am Nikochev Sibornik. I have big collection of books. And I hope I didn't peak the mic with that. I may have. I'll have to check the feed for that one later. But, so these are some voices I'm working on, and I have a lot of other ones that I'd love to name. I have Mr. Moneybags. Oh, money. I love money. You are all plebs. That's kind of like a snobby rich guy. But, it's just fun to play around with these voices, and I think that's why I do them. Playing around, I think, when it comes down to art, no matter what you're doing, it's so important to have fun. Playing around is the essence of what art should be. And so, obviously, I play around with these voices. I have so many other more I'm working on that I love to put names to. I do a lot of impressions, obviously, like Mario, yahoo! And, Waluigi, wah! I can't put those in a reel because they're impressions. I mean, I could, but it wouldn't really be as well accepted, but they're still something that's fun to do and play around with. Sometimes I like to talk to myself as all four of the Mario Brothers characters. I'll save that for another time. I'm not gonna do that this time. But yeah, I speaking of character voices, I'm looking to post some of my my work that I've done on YouTube, so you guys can hear it. I have one, obviously. Other than the Marion Maloney, I have the Jaden Feather one, which I call Camp Sunrise, and it's basically a story about Jaden, who he loves his job as a camp counselor. He is the best at it. He does the best he can. But he runs into this bus of Russian exchange students. It's funny, and it's a fun little bit. And then I do another one where it's it's like an assassin droid kind of thing. And anyways, you'll have to see them. I'll post them. I'm gonna work on posting those pretty soon. You guys can get some what it sounds like, good stuff. Other than that, like I said, going back to what I was just saying, that art is so much about having fun, and that you have to have fun with what you do. Because I woke up this morning and my original plan was I'm gonna get in there at 8:00 starting and go. And I kind of was speaking with the Lord, and I kind of felt him. I was like, hey, why are you striving so hard? Why aren't you not having fun with this? And I kind of thought about it. I was like, it really has in some ways kind of turned into a chore. And I mean, yes, of course it has to be a business. It has to be serious work. But God was talking to me. He said, don't let this become a toil. Don't let this become something you have to do. Make sure it's always something you want to do, something you get to do. You wake up in the morning, I get to voice act. And so, I definitely, like I said, I'm in today. I am working hard in the studio today, but I want to make sure that I'm doing it for the right reasons. Not because I feel like I have to, but because it's fun. So that's another little, man, I'm giving you lots of messages today. So having fun with what you do is so important. Whether it's art, whether it's chores, you can have fun doing chores. Whatever you're doing today, think of a way to make it fun. Have fun with it. So going from that, we are going to talk about confessions. So my confession yesterday, if I remember correctly, because I didn't write it down, I should have, and I should probably start writing these down more. I said I was going to do that. My confession yesterday was that I am a hard work, diligent worker, and God is bringing people into my path that will open doors for me. And that's a great one. Whatever your confession was, remember it and confess it. Confess it again today. But for today, we're going to have a new one. And for today's confession, in regards to having fun, in regards to God's grace, I wanted to actually quote a scripture. I don't remember the citation, but I remember a church I used to go to would say this after every service, and it's, let the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. And again, I don't remember where that citation is, but I think that's a great confession today, that, you know what, Lord, we're just going to, whatever we're doing today, whatever we put our hands to, whatever we meditate on, whatever we put in our mouth, whatever we say, that we have good confession, not good confession, that we are pleasing to the Lord. So that's my confession today. So what's your confession? Do you want to say the same thing? You put in the comments what your confessions are today. I think that does it for today's episode. I love all of you. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I will talk to you guys in the next episode. Bye!